Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates. Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis on current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper. Articles dated 28th of October 2021 are listed on your screen, and the timestamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. For those who are new to this channel, RAU'S IAS publishes one question on each Thursday, where we provide opportunity to the student to write answer to the question given on the ELEARN platform of RAU'S IAS and get their answers evaluated by the evaluation team of RAU'S IAS. The question for this Thursday is: the cyber security in India jeopardize national security by accessing sensitive government infrastructure. In the light above statement, examine the National Cyber Security Policy of 2013. This answer should be written within 250 word limit. We also have some important announcement related to the answer writing practice which we conduct on every Thursday. Well, these are the important points which you should keep in mind while giving your answers for the evaluation. All those who will send their answer by Sunday, that is end of Sunday, will get the evaluation and feedback from RAU'S IAS evaluation team by next Thursday. Any answer submitted after Sunday will not be considered for evaluation. Try to post your answers in the portrait mode only. Please do not submit your answer in an inverted manner or any manner which is inconvenient for the evaluation team, as it becomes extremely difficult to evaluate such answers. You should not post your answer in someone else's answer or should not share link of your drive where you have already uploaded your answer. Use the comment box or post your answer at the bottom of the thread to submit your answer to the main thread. And lastly, try to keep tab on the time taken. Mention the time taken for you to write your answer in your answer sheet on the top right hand side. You can also mention the city and the state from where you are posting your answer. It will help us in knowing that students are benefiting across India and DNS is reaching every nook and corner of the country. Thank you.
Now, in continuation with our series on Prelims 2021 discussion, let's take question number 4 asked in set A by UPSC in the Prelims examination of 2021. So the question was, consider the following statements. Other things remaining unchanged, market demand for a good might increase if. Options were: first, price of its substitute increases; second, price of its complement increases; third, the good is an inferior good and income of the consumers increases; and fourth, its price falls. So in this question, you need to know about substitute goods, complementary goods, and also inferior goods. So as a quick revision, let's understand about complementary goods, substitute goods, and also inferior goods. Now the best example for complementary goods can be petrol and cars. Now here, if the price of one good increases, then the demand for the other decreases. For example, if the price of petrol increases, then the demand for cars decreases. Substitute goods, example are tea and coffee. Now here, if the price of tea increases, then people will shift to coffee and hence it will lead to increase in demand for coffee. Now with respect to inferior goods, for example coarse grains, as the income increases, its demand decreases. So these were the basic points which you need to know while answering this particular question. Now this particular question was asked in the 10th full length test of RAU'S IAS Prelims test series. The question was, consider a particular commodity X. The demand for this commodity reduces as the income level of the buyer increases. However, as the price of this commodity increases, its demand also increases. Now this commodity X belongs to which of the following categories of goods? Now different kind of options were available such as Veblen goods, inferior goods, Giffen goods and superior goods. Now in this the correct answer was C, that is Giffen goods, and in the explanation if you had gone through, it also explains about the inferior goods. So inferior goods are those goods whose demand reduces as the income level of the buyer increases. For example, coarse grain. whereas given goods is a category of inferior goods whose demand increases as the price also increases. Now here the best example is bread, and its demand also increases as the price increases because it is mainly due to the fact that these goods do not have a substitute. So this explanation with respect to inferior goods was also provided in the prelims test series. Now based on this understanding, let's go through the options again with respect to increase in market demand for any goods. So first, price of its substitute increases. As we see, if the price of tea increases, then the demand of the substitute also increases. So definitely the first option becomes correct. Second, price of its complement increases. Now regarding complementary goods, if price of petrol is increasing, then the demand for the car is decreasing. So this becomes incorrect. Third, the good is an inferior good and income of the consumer increases. Now as we know that when income increases, the demand for such inferior goods also decreases. So this also becomes incorrect. And fourth, if its price falls, this is also correct, which is as per the demand and supply. Now, had you known that option 3 was incorrect and you were still dicey with respect to option 1 and option 2, then you could have easily eliminated option 3 from your 3 options. That would have left only option A, which is the correct answer here, that is 1 and 4, which we have also solved based on the examples in this discussion. So, the 10th full-length test mentioned about the aspect of inferior goods and also given goods with respect to an example of bread in its explanation. So if you had attempted this particular question in the full length test and also gone through the explanation, then at least you could have revised the aspect of inferior goods, which could have ultimately helped you in eliminating the other options, even if you are not sure about substitute goods or complementary goods. So in this regard, the question was which of the above statements are correct. So here the correct answer becomes A, that is 1 and 4 only.
So the first article for today's discussion was published on page 8th of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This article explicitly talks about the energy cooperation between India and Russia, how this energy cooperation could be strengthened further, and how this cooperation will benefit both these countries. However, from the UPSC perspective, we will go beyond the energy requirement between both these nations and we will look into India-Russia relationship in a holistic manner. After this discussion, you will have ample material to prepare on India-Russia relationship from all the possible aspects in the UPSC examination, both prelims as well as main stage. The context of this article says that given the changing geopolitics which the world is going through right now, with respect to energy and defense, well, it is imperative for India to stand firm on relationship with Russia. It means that it is the right time when India can leverage its friendship with Russia in order to boost its own geopolitical outlook as well as secure energy and defense security for the nation as a whole. The relevance of this article is very high from the prelims perspective when it comes to the India-Russia relations in terms of defense, trade, culture, politics and many other. From the mains perspective, it is important from the aspect of GS paper 2 in which we have international relations related to bilateral, regional and others. As India-Russia relationship is part of bilateral relationship, it is important in the mains examination as well. So, given this relevance, we will look into everything possible from the perspective of this article. I will provide you a brief note on this article and the important aspect. We will look into what is the need for India to have better relationship with Russia. We will also have the historical background of India-Russia relationship. Along with this, we will look into some of the political, defense, cultural and other aspects of bilateral relationship. Then we will look into those important groupings where both these nations have high stake. Then we will look into the challenges in the relations, and lastly we will provide you the important way forward in order to improve the relationship between both these countries. But before venturing into the article and description itself, let us look into how this India-Russia relationship is important. Well, in 2020, that is last year, UPSC has asked the significance of Indo-US defense deals over the Indo-Russian defense deals. Hence, in this aspect, you should have basic idea about India-Russia relationship. Even in 2018, when the question was asked regarding the Central Asia, you cannot miss mentioning Russia in this aspect. In this, it was also asked related to the Ashgabat agreement, in which Russia is one of the main and one of the important element of the agreement. So let us look into what this article has to say. Well, we have taken all these important points or the pointers from the article itself, hence there is no add-on which we are looking into the article. These are nothing but the short notes which you can write in order to prepare some points on the India-Russia relationship. Well, from this article, we come to know that India's Minister on Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, has referred Russia to be the largest investor in India's energy sector. Well, this point could be one of your introduction if you want to introduce in India-Russia relationship. The article also talks about the relationship on the private sector, where Reliance Industries and Russia's Sibur has collaborated in order to provide the production of butyl rubber in India. This has actually benefited India on the import section, as India used to import butyl rubber to the larger extent previously. One of the important thing which is not related only to the India-Russia relationship is that, according to one of the report published by Deloitte, very reputed company, India could gain about 11 trillion of its economic value over the next 50 years when it can control the rising global temperature and export decarbonization. This could also be used for your environment related answers. Then the article talks about that Russia is ready to build dozens of reactors, and these reactors include nuclear reactors in India, and this will provide green energy security to the nation. And lastly, article also talks about that India requires at least $500 billion of investment in the green energy in order to meet its target of 550 gigawatt capacity. Well, all these points could be used in intro, body and conclusion in various topics of the UPSC examination. Well, after discussing these important points from the article, let us look into what are the basic elements that why India require to have good relationship with Russia. Well, India needs Russia for the following. First of all is the defense and security. Well, this defense and security means that India want better equipments, better capacity building, as well as better assurity from those powers which had vast experience in defense and security. India is also looking to counter the Western influence, or I would say total influence on the Western side. It means that India does not want to have extreme dependence on the Western nations, including your US and Europe. This is nothing but a two-side policy of India, where India wants to make a balance between its contemporary and past friendly nations as well as the new relationships. India is also looking for greater participation in the Indo-Pacific, so it requires more powerful nation in order to have better and cordial relationship and meet India's interest in the region. India can also utilize Russia as a mediator to engage with China. This was seen recently at Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India is also looking for larger geopolitics role. It means that India wants to be a partner in UNSC reforms. So here Russia can definitely help India to make up its stand. On the other hand, India is also looking for a definite partnership on the international issues, including climate change, trade talks, and position of developing nation in the international institutions. India can also boost its trade, especially the demand side from the Central Asian countries as well as Russia. India can also leverage the energy needs from the Arctic Ocean. And lastly, India wants to engage more in Central Asia. And who other than Russia can help India to deepen its presence in the Central Asian country, because as of now, China is dominating this area to a larger extent. Hence, given all these points, Russia becomes imperative for India's geopolitics. So, let us look into the historical background for which India has developed its relationship with Russia. Well, before India's independence, India had some kind of relationship with Russia. Well, Russian Revolution in 1917 inspired the Indian freedom fighters. Mahatma Gandhi himself was carrying on the connection with Russia through the correspondence with Leo Tolstoy. Even the Russian communist leader like Lenin followed with the interest and sympathy of India's freedom struggle. And Jawaharlal Nehru visited the Soviet Union in 1927 on the occasion of Bolshevik Revolution anniversary. But the real landmark came after the independence and before the disintegration of USSR. And during this period, India received assistance on bulk for its industrialization process, and this included the expansion on iron and steel industry. India got reliable, affordable, and good quality of military supplies, both from the purchasing power as well as on the lease ground. Russia also helped India to explore oil, production of fertilizers and other metals. It was the help of Soviet Union which helped India's public sector to boost and expand further. Apart from this, Soviet Union also helped India on its space, technological and nuclear advancement. The treaty which India signed with the Russia during 1971 was the Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty, and it helped India to gain strength during the 1971 Indo-Pak War, where US and China directly supported Pakistan with money and muscle. After the disintegration of the USSR in late 1980s, the relationship dynamics changed a lot. Now we were going through the unipolar world, which was dominated by US and its allies. So what happened? Russia lost its prowess and got weakened. Its military was no longer capable to fight the rising American capitalism and its power. So what they did, they somehow adopted the model of capitalism to boost its strength. The defense sale which Russia was making now to India became more on the profitable motive, because now Russia was working on the capitalist model. Russia has now increased its closeness to China, and this was very much seen during the current Putin regime. And this has actually also led India looking for other defense suppliers, including the United States. And no wonder that India has signed many deals including Limoa, Comcasa and other in order to strengthen its own defense requirement. However, still both the nations functions on the clarity that they want multipolar world and not bipolar or unipolar. The current geopolitical relationship of India-Russia has also been seen through the lens of how they perceive the Western world. Well, India is looking for a balanced approach between its relationship with the past friendly nations, including Russia, and India is also looking towards a better relationship with the westernized world and the capitalist regime. If both the countries have different perspective on defense, groupings, trade balances, international platform and others, their relationship is going to have a downward trend in the near future. So, what is the current status of the relationship? Well, the political relationship of both these countries stand on these three important events which took place recently. Well, both the countries are democracy in some sense or the other. However, we know what kind of democracies they have. The current political relationship got strengthened after the annual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the President of Russian Federation. Well, this annual summit is the best example of bilateral meeting between India and any other country. India has also signed about 14 MOUs in the field of trade, investment, defense cooperation, road transport and others including oil and gas in 2019. And this was the momentum when India-Russia relationship was revived once again. Both the countries have signed and incorporated Intergovernmental Commission. This is one of the best examples to show how two countries can revive their relationships on different parameters. Well, these two commissions include trade and economic, and the other one was on the military and technical cooperation. Both these commissions meet annually and discusses their outstanding issues. India can also replicate this kind of model with other countries also. As far as defense and security relation is concerned, Russia would rank first on any other country India has ever had any kind of defense relation. Well, both the countries have conducted tri-service exercises, which includes Indra 2017. They also conducted bilateral Russia-India naval exercises with the name Indra Navy 2018. Apart from that, they have also participated in many other multilateral or bilateral defense exercises. Important military programs included BrahMos missile system, 5th generation fighter aircraft, Sukhoi 30 MKI program, tactic transport aircraft and Ka-2260 twin engine utility helicopters. India has also bought multiple hardwares from Russia. Top of them included S-400 missile system, Kemov Ka-226 helicopters, which was also taken up through the Make in India initiative. Then we have tanks included T-90. We have India's sole aircraft carrier INS Vikramaditya on lease purposes. Then India's first submarine, which was the Foxtrot class, came from Russia. And this shows how long and deep India's relationship with Russia lies on their defense parameters. India has also included its dependence on the nuclear submarine program, and India's 9 out of 14 conventional submarines are from Russia. And all these pointers shows that the kind of relationship, the kind of dependence India had since independence on Russia's defense exports and cooperation. And this definitely proves that India has always been a all-weather friend to Russia in one aspect or the other. The other areas included India-Russia trade relations, where both the nations are looking to increase their bilateral investment to $50 billion and trade to $30 billion in the next 5 years. In 2019, in the span period of just 9 months, the trade between both the countries was $7.55 billion, which, according to many other countries, is extremely low. India has very high relationship on trade matters with US, UAE and China. The reason for low bilateral trade between India and Russia is the connectivity. India does not have a direct land route connectivity to Russia. And when it comes to the ocean trade or the sea trade, India has to surpass the entire West Asia and Europe in order to reach the western side of Russia. And for this matter, India is looking to have deeper economic relationship on the eastern side of Russia through Vladivostok and Chennai connection. On nuclear energy, India has already got support on the establishment of Kundakulam nuclear power plant with Russian cooperation. In space, both the countries are working on outer space technologies, satellite launches, GLONASS navigation system, and many other programs, including the upcoming human spaceflight program, in which Indian astronauts are getting capacity building or the training program in Russia. On cultural relations, well, Hindi is one language which is being promoted in Russia. Indian music, dance, yoga, and Ayurveda are getting very much supported and promoted by the Russians. In fact, the Bollywood movies are very much in fashion in Russia. India's Mahatma Gandhi and Leo Tolstoy of Russia are being celebrated in both the countries. There are other areas where both the countries are having common grounds. Well, these are some of the groupings where both the countries are members too. This included BRICS, RIC, where India, Russia, and China are the partners. We have Shanghai Cooperation Organization, East Asia Summit, where both the countries share platform with the ASEAN countries. They are member of the G20 nations, International North-South Transport Corridor, Ashgabat Agreement, which was also asked by the UPSC, and when both the members are part of United Nations Security Council. However, Russia is a permanent member while India is a non-permanent member. Apart from this, India and Russia are also member to a number of international organizations under UN and others, which included World Trade Organizations, International Monetary Fund, and whatnot. All these platforms have provided ample space for these countries and their representatives to stand together and resolve their outstanding issues. Despite this, both the countries are facing the following challenges. The first one is the rapid expansion of India-US relationship, which we have seen since the coming of new government in 2014. This included the agreements such as Limoa, Comcasa, and Becca. Given the deepening of India-US relationship, Russia has changed its decade-old policy of all-weather friend to India. And now they have started supporting China with the weapon systems like Sukhoi 35 and S-400. And this is one of the reasons why there is a close proximity between Russia and China, along with the partnership with the Pakistan. And this could be seen on the platforms like RIC, where India could not resolve its major issues with China. And as both China and Russia opposes the United States, so any close relationship between India and the United States will bring bitter relationship between Russia, China, and India. Both Russia and India have different perspective on Indo-Pacific. Well, Russia perceives Indo-Pacific to a regime which is led by US or the United States interest. And similarly, it says that instead of calling the area to be Indo-Pacific, it should be called as Asia-Pacific. Asia-Pacific means that Central and Northern Asia also become part of the geopolitics. The other issues included the defense exercises which was conducted between Russia and Pakistan, and the internal issues in Russia which included the high cry of corruption and the state lawlessness which was seen over 200 cities of Russia. On the other hand, India is also subjected to the international criticism on some of the issues like Kashmir, citizenship, or in fact the border related conflict with China or Pakistan. Given all these important challenges, well, India and Russia can come together on the following parameters in order to resolve their issues. The first thing is they should come together to make more effort on the joint projects. They have already done so in the Rupur nuclear plant, which they have established in the state of Bangladesh. Both the countries should focus more on the areas of Eurasia, which includes connectivity and trade transit. This Eurasia can become a new area of focus for both the countries because India is looking for alternate trade routes. On the other hand, Russia is also looking for high demand economies like India. Russia, instead of just exporting or selling goods to India, can also help India to become self-sufficient in defense through investment and capacity building along with technological transfer. And also help India on defense exports. Like both the countries can develop BrahMos missile and sell it to other or the third party or the third country. India need to make a fine balance between Russia, China and the United States along with the other countries in the neighborhood. India has to utilize the current scientific and technological base which has already been developed in Russia for solving its own problem and stop seeing Russia from the lens of Western powers. And finally, both the countries should conclude the free trade agreement in order to boost the economic powers because economic power and economic relationships can build a strong foundation to develop political as well as strategic relationship to the higher extent. Now, given all this discussion and different parameters, let us look into the questions for the practice session. Now, most of the students were asking that where they have to submit these answers. Well, this practice question is not for you to submit anywhere. You just have to write this answer and if possible, try to get it checked with your friends, seniors or any teacher which you are in contact with. If not, be the worst teacher of yourself. Write the answer and see what else you could have done or how better you could have improved on this answer writing session. So coming to this question, of late, India-Russia relationship have seen a downside trend. Now this is your first keyword in the last few years. Identify the causes, this is your second keyword, behind this trend and provide potential solution and this is your third keyword. These are the three important keywords on which your answer should be written. This should be divided into three different paragraphs or three different subheadings with important pointers. The introduction and the conclusion can well be taken from any points which we have recently discussed and try to write the answer to this question in under 250 words. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with two important prelims related questions to solve. Now read these questions carefully and answer them in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article was published on page 10 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the international convention and organization with the name United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. India has said that it respects all the laws created under the UNCLOS. However, India is also worried about its own maritime security and maritime sovereignty. The context of the article says that India's defense minister has reiterated India's commitment towards protecting the law in the international waters. But India also wants to protect its own maritime sovereignty and India will protect its maritime security under the rules of the international order. The relevance of this article comes from the fact that it is international treaties, international organizations are important for both your prelims as well as the mains examination. And UNCLOS is important for your General Studies Paper 2 and General Studies Paper 3 in the mains examination. The content for this article would include everything about the UNCLOS. We will also look into the important layers of maritime jurisdiction and organizations which are connected to the UNCLOS at the international level to protect the maritime security. So let us start with the UNCLOS first. UNCLOS is an acronym which stands for United Nations Convention for the Law of the Sea. Well, this is a treaty. It is an international treaty, hence it is binding on each and every nation which is signatory to this treaty. This treaty came into force on 16th of November 1982 under the United Nations. Well, the main objective of the treaty is to define the ocean boundaries across the world and try to establish general obligation for safeguarding the marine ecosystem as well as protect the freedom of scientific research And scientific research here also includes the research related to the marine ecosystem of flora and fauna. It creates innovative legal regime which can be utilized and can create common platform for the entire international community to work on this similar platform. The organization help countries to explore the mineral resources, including your flora, fauna, and metallic and non-metallic minerals, which are found in the deep seabed across the oceans, and that too in an equitable manner. This organization actually helps those landlocked countries or those landlocked states which could not have direct access to the oceans. The best example here could be the countries from Central Asia. You can take the example of Mongolia. The best example could be the state of Kyrgyzstan or Mongolia, which does not have access to the oceans. The treaty provides these countries right to access oceans from the areas of other countries without paying any taxes for their transportation. It is like this. If Mongolia wants to have access to the Pacific Ocean, they can get a transit route from Russia or from China without paying any taxes to these countries. UNCLOS and the rules under the UNCLOS is based on the following criteria or the division of water area. As you must have read in multiple books, international water is divided under 5 different categories. This includes your internal waters, territorial waters, contiguous zones, exclusive economic zones, and continental shelf. From this diagram, you can see that how these zones are extended into the water. This bottom area is nothing but the continental shelf which each and every coastal area across the world has. It may be smaller, it may be longer, but every nation which is coastal in nature has the continental shelf. The first and the foremost area is the territorial water, which is extended to the 12 nautical miles. Beyond this 12 nautical miles is part of contiguous zone, which also include the territorial waters. Zone up to 200 nautical mile is the exclusive economic zone. An economic zone here only means the power for economic exploitation. And beyond exclusive economic zones, we have high seas. As far as legal rights in these different categories concerned, let us discuss that one by one. We have internal waters. Well, the best example of internal water could be lagoons. We have lagoon lakes in India, such as Chilika Lake in Odisha. Under international waters, nations have all rights, be it legal rights, maneuver rights, be it the right to exploit the natural resources and others. And no nation can have permission to move from these waters. Beyond internal waters, we have territorial waters. Coastal nations have all rights with respect to the territorial waters. When it comes to the passage, well, other nations can have innocent passage, which includes the passage of the defense forces. Then we have the contiguous zones. In contiguous zone, nations have limited rights, which are related to customs, taxation, immigration, and pollution. In this also, we have permission for all the kind of movement. Under exclusive economic zone, coastal nations have rights only limited to the exploration, and that too for the economic purposes. And lastly, we have continental shelf, in which coastal areas have right to harvest minerals and non-living materials. In the subsoil of the continental shelf, the best example here is the mineral oil. So this table brings us to a basic conclusion that as we move away from the coastal areas, the rights enjoyed by a particular coastal areas keep on decreasing, and the rights of other nations for maneuverability or for exploitation of natural resources increases. Now this discussion brings us to the important organizations which are connected to the UNCLOS. The first one is the International Maritime Organization. It creates laws for the movement of vessels across the water bodies. Then we have International Tribunal for Laws of the Sea. It is nothing but a platform where nations can come together to solve their maritime issues. And the third one is International Seabed Authority. It deals with all the issues which are subjected to the exploitation of the seabed across the water bodies in the international waters. It organizes, regulates, and controls all minerals related activities in international seabed area. The best example here is the exploitation of minerals which were permitted to India in the central Indian Ocean to exploit the mineral resources, including the polymetallic nodules. With this discussion in place, now we will move to the next article for the day. This article was published on page 1st of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the context where center has said that they want to keep birth and death database with them. It does not mean that they will not allow state to collect these kind of data for further policy making. It means that center now want to keep one copy of data related to birth and death with itself. For this, the central government has proposed an amendment to 1969 Act that will enable the central government to maintain the database of registered births and deaths at national level. Currently, the data related to the birth and death in India is collected and kept by the registrar, and this registrar is appointed by the state governments. As this is only at a proposal state, so we will not go into the merits and the demerits of this move. However, there is one apprehension which may appear in the near future. And that apprehension lies with the fact that this database, which will lie with the central government, could be used to create National Population Register or NPR, for which many states have already registered their complaints. The content for today's discussion would include everything about the death and the birth registration in India. We will also learn about the census in India and the Registrar General of India. All these topics are important for your prelims examination from the Indian Polity and Governance section. So let us start with understanding everything about birth and death registration in India. Well, these kind of census and registration started in India after the British government in 1886 passed the Central Birth, Death and Marriage Registration Act. But this was only for the voluntary registration. It was not compulsory. After the independence, India created a separate law with the name Registration of Birth Death Act or RBD Act in 1969 to bring the uniformity as well as comparability in the registration of birth across India. However, still it is not mandatory in each and every state to get it registered. The implementation of RBD Act lies with the state government, hence central does not have any motive to get interference in these kind of data. And this is one of the things which has prompted the central government to ask for amendment in this act in order to get one copy of this database. This database is prepared by the functionaries appointed by the state government, and this functionary is known by the name Directorate of Census Operation. And it is functioning under the supervision of Registrar General of India, who is, by the way, responsible for collection of census data in the country. Registrar General of India is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. As we have seen that Registrar General of India is responsible for the census operation across India. And for this purpose, each state has selected Directors of Census Operation or DCOs. These DCOs are responsible for coordination, monitoring, publicity of data related to the birth and the death. They also provide assistance to the chief registrars. They provide modernization of the registration system, which include use of mobile phones, tablets, and online data collection. They provide monthly meeting to the chief registrars, and they also provide regular inspection of the registration units to keep data in synchronization. Well, you are not required to remember all these points by heart, but general understanding of the census is important and how it functions is also important. Then we have some important facts related to the census in India. Well, first of all, what is census? Census means a survey in which we measure each and every unit. Let's say there is a village where 1,000 people are living, and we want to know how many of them are male and how many of them are female. There are two methods to conduct this survey. First is the census method, and second is the sample method. In census method, we will ask each and every person of these 1,000 to know who of them is male and who of them is female. The other possibility is that we will take a sample of 100 people and we will see how many of them are male and how many of them are female, and based on that data we will say that same thing applies to the entire village. The point is the sample could not turn out to be true. The sample may say that there are 60 male and 40 female. However, the census will give us the clear picture that there are 52 male and 48 females, because here we have counted each and every person. And this is one of the reasons why people rely more on the census data rather than the sample data. We have organizations like Central Statistical Organization, which is responsible for collecting sample data. We also have National Statistical Organization. We also have National Sample Survey. For example, we have employment data. So all these data are collected on the sample basis, but the census of population is at the macro level. A census is conducted in order to know the size, distribution, and socio-economic along with the demography of a nation. It helps us to frame the better administration, planning and policy, and help us to make better management and evaluation of various government programs. Let's take the example of MG Narega. Let's say government want to provide employment, but they do not know how many people live in village areas. And if they know, they do not know how many of them are adult. And even if they know how many of them are adult, they do not know how many of them are male, how many of them are female, how many of them are fit enough to get employment. All these kind of provisions is possible if we have census data. And lastly, census in India is a confidential thing. Government will only publish data. They will say that there are X number of males or females in a particular village. They will not provide names or any other data related to their life. And this proves us that the data cannot be shared with any other government or the private agency. Well, the census history goes back to 1872. It was a systematic and a modern population census, and it was conducted in a synchronized manner between 1865 to 1872, however, not in a continuous manner. But the census which was conducted till 1872 was not covering all the territories of India. So, the census of 1881 was the first synchronized census which was conducted at all India level. And since this survey, India has been conducting a regular survey at a gap of every 10 years. Unfortunately, due to COVID crisis, there was no census which was conducted in 2020 or 2021. In post-independence era, the first survey was conducted obviously in 1951. The responsibility of conducting a survey, as we have discussed, is under the Registrar General and the Census Commissioner of India, who functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The conduct of census in India is a legal and a statutory measure under the Census Act 1948. As we have seen that there is an information technology revolution in the country, so government has taken the same initiative in order to conduct the census of 2021 through mobile-based data collection. The best benefit of this exercise is the real-time monitoring system across the nation. The moment a person will enter a data, this data will become a national data based in the central database. Requirement of this kind of initiative has led to the creation of Census Management and Monitoring System, or CMMS, in the Office of Registrar General of India. This centralized database created on the benchmark of online or the mobile data collection will help government to frame or update the national population register in the future. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with the question attached to this article. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. With this discussion in place, now we will move to the next article for the day. Now we come to the references. The first reference here include about the aluminium sector in India. This article got published on page 14 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the misery which is faced by the laborers and the workers of aluminium industry in India. The Aluminium Association of India has reached out the Prime Minister's office with the complaint that the industry may soon shut down because there is a limited supply of coal in the country and millions of people can become jobless. The reason being that this industry is getting only 50% of the coal than what is required in order to work on the 100% capacity. From this article, we have to learn that what are the different factors which defines the location of the aluminium industry, where aluminium industry is located, and all other aspects from the perspective of geography and economy in the country. If you want to read and learn more on this, you can follow the DNS dated 14th of October 2021, in which we have discussed all the factors defining the location of the aluminium industry in India and what is the current status. Along with this, we have also discussed the important places where aluminium plants or aluminium industry is located. The second article for the reference was given on page 9th of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This article provides the important and the best points of Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission. This infrastructure mission has been discussed in much more detail on the DNS dated 27th of October 2021 in much more detail. All the aspects of Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission was discussed in this DNS. So you can go through this DNS to learn more. The third reference for today was published on the page first of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This provides us to the insights of a committee which was set up by the Supreme Court in India to examine the Pegasus allegation which have been making news for long time now. This committee will be headed by the former Supreme Court Judge R.V. Ravindran, and it will examine all the allegations which were made to the central government for using the Israeli software Pegasus to spy on citizens and important personalities in the country. To learn more on Pegasus virus, how it is formed and why it has become an issue in India, all the important aspects including the constitutional provisions related to right to privacy and right of the government to look into the personal matter of a public on the pretext of law and order and relation to the countries have been discussed in the DNS dated 20th July 2021 in much more detail. Was published on the page first of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This article talks about the issue between two states, that is Tamil Nadu and Kerala, related to a dam which is the Mullaperiyar Dam on the river Periyar. The water flows through the state of Kerala and even the dam is situated in the state of Kerala. But the administration of this dam is under the control of Tamil Nadu. And this is the real crux, or this is the real issue behind the utilization of water of this dam. The Kerala government has argued in the Supreme Court that Tamil Nadu should not be allowed to cross the water limit in the Mullaperiyar Dam beyond 139 feet. Why? Because once this threshold is crossed by the water, that water will overflow from the dam and will create flood issues in the state of Kerala. And apprehending the flood situation, Kerala has made this appeal in the Supreme Court. If you want to learn more on the Mullaperiyar Dam and the river Periyar, you should go through the DNS of 25th of October 2021 for further detail. With these references, now we come to the question of the day and also to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.